Another CNBC TV18 news break has been confirmed. The cabinet has given an in-principle approval to set up an alternative mechanism for mergers of state-owned banks. Sapna Das, who first broke that story on the 9th of August, joins us now with the details. Sapna, what is the next step in this process of merging public sector banks? And the government seems to be taking this alternative investment mechanism route for all complicated divestitures, etc. For instance, even in Air India, it's the same route that they're following.
Well, that's precisely the question that we had raised today. Probably that the merger proposals have actually not come in from the banks. And is this a way to nudge them into some kind of an action and activity? This question had been put up. But senior government officials later in the day did tell us two important things, and that is basically that the banks are already in conversation among themselves regarding the merger process. Why the alternative mechanism route has been followed here is the fact that they would need some additional comfort from the banking regulator as well as the central government, that whatever decision they may take in terms of any merger or whatever exercise that they will start, once it reaches a state of conclusion, either the government or the regulator should not raise questions and say that, boss, probably this is not good enough, because that will be a bit of a quandary for everybody. So to keep that in mind, basically, this will give them a sense of comfort. The finance minister is very clear that the decisions are going to come from the bank managements themselves, the boards themselves. It's going to be completely based on commercial reasons. We have amply flagged off the details, and they have been, reiterated today by senior government officials. The fact that each and every, there'll be separate merger schemes depending on the strategic fit of banks. So once, the detailed scheme is closer to finalization, that's the time when the alternative mechanism will give one more nod, and, the bank managements will be taking the decision to the exchanges. It will be announced over there. That's one. Second, each and every scheme that will come through this route will also have to be laid in the parliament for approval. So these are two important things that we need to keep in mind. I expect at least one merger case to go through in the current financial year, if not two. There's a very clear intent on the part of the government, and the first step has been taken via this cabinet approval. Over the next couple of weeks, we can expect some announcements or rather some activity to start. There's also a process that will be involved, like the share swap ratio, informing the minority shareholders. There'll be whole work on that. So once the banks come to some kind of a stage, it will come back to AM, and in principle approval will already be taken by the AM. And of course, it's widely expected that Union Finance Minister Mr. Jaitley himself will head the AM, but the other ministers will have yet to be announced in terms of who's going to be part of that. So at least one or two merger cases we can expect to go through. Also, very quickly, let me add just one final point. Government is also trying to say that there'll be no job losses through this merger process.
All right, Sapna, many thanks for bringing in all those details. But staying with that story, a simultaneous cleanup and a merger is a good option. That's the word coming in from SBI Chairman Arundhati Bhattacharya. Speaking with Ritu Singh, Arundhati believes that it is ripe time to undertake PSU bank consolidation. She also believes that consolidation must not be motivated only by capital, and that it must ensure more efficient entity. Have a look.
Consolidation cannot only be undertaken because of lack of capital. That would not be the right way to go forward with it, because any consolidation that takes place takes a very large toll on both the organizations. And that can only be justified if you see going forward, it will be an entity that will be bigger, stronger, more efficient. If you're not going to be all of these, then just to do it because one particular unit has less of capital may not really be worth it. And I don't think that is what the government is proposing either. The government also is now very clear that they want those units to merge which will be stronger going forward and be better able to take on the challenges of the market.
But what would be the ideal scenario then? Should we look at banks in the same region? Should we look at similar profitability? What would be the ideal?
Again, as I said, I don't think we can force everything into one model fits all.
Okay.
It won't work like that.
Now, when the sector is in the middle of a large cleanup, is now a right time to look at consolidation?
In fact, I would say that when you are already having challenges, it's better to take on more rather than wait for the good times when you should concentrate on doing banking. You shouldn't waste or fritter away your energies at that point of time in doing something like a consolidation. That is one of the reasons why we undertook it now, because we think this is the best time to do the consolidation. We already are going through a cleanup, a shake-up, and all of it. So might as well take it on now, get it over and over with, so that when the upturn comes, and it is definitely going to come, we are totally prepared for it.
Well, not just Arundhati, we also have been speaking with other experts who believe that the merger process must be driven by the government, because after all, they are the key stakeholders of these banks, as banks themselves may not be willing to step forward. They also believe that there might be some pain, at least in the short run. Have a look.
Initially, there will be pain. Let me also say that it is a process driven by the boards. No, we should realize that in private sector, it is the promoter who drives acquisitions and mergers. So I do not think any board would like to, say that I want to merge with anybody. That's not going to happen. It's only when some other board say that I want to take you, then the other board will say yes or no. So I think that's a process which will have to be driven by the government from the backside, because they are ultimately the key promoter.
Unless you bring the stronger player, you are making existing inefficient player more stronger. That means for next 20 years, there will be no competition in the banking. So financial system will remain inefficient. And that is what is my first worry, that unless it is followed up by the structural changes in the removing the entry barriers, structural changes in the thinking of the government, that public sector can be merged with the private sector, I don't think it is going to give you the result. The problems will be much more difficult after 5 years.
Point of time, I don't think any of the 20 public sector banks will take over another bank for commercial considerations at the current level of NPAs. Only I think 3 banks or 5 banks I think are below are in single-digit NPAs. 15 banks have double-digit NPAs. And out of those 5, one is SBI. If you knock out SBI, do you think any of these 4 banks will take over any of the other banks for commercial considerations? I doubt very much. I think ultimately the government, through its nominees on the board, will have to indicate. Otherwise, this is not going to happen.